Blast from the grassroots, connecting people and sharing ideas.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, welcome back. This is Grace.
And with our Blast from the Grassroots, second segment for ASEAN Breakfast Call is about fashion.
Yep, it's about fashion and also mostly about the startup in Malaysia.
Yeah. When we talk about fashion, usually we would think about like modern fashion.
For sure, yeah.
And people don't necessarily incorporate like traditional elements in fashion, but this is something unique that is done by the founder of Fern Fashion. We have Fern Chua here. And what is interesting is you actually put a modern touch to batik wear. So hi, welcome to the studio. Good morning.
Hello, hi, I'm Fern.
So it's pretty unique for you to not just like do fashion, dwell into this fashion industry, but also to have a unique focus on your fashion direction.
Yes, I think there is a need for batik to come about in fashion. In fact, batik has already been in the the fashion world, I would say, for quite some time now. Like, people are boasting about like African batik and Indonesian batik. Dries Van Noten has successfully used Indonesian batik, but nobody actually really thought about Malaysian batik so far yet. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a lot to do with, different cultures has different inspiration or different patterns to play around in that traditional element to it.
But is it because Malaysians in general, they don't really look back to the rich culture that we have in order for us to move forward?
Well, the truth is that we do embrace our culture and our heritage and things like that. It's just that I think that a lot of the younger generation kind of overlook the idea of what batik is all about and why batik exists and why there is a need for us to continue this heritage, and somehow I realize as well that the youth or the younger generation kind of associate batik with something that is traditional wear, like the Muslim wear mainly, and that actually gave me the idea. In fact, when I saw that and I mean, how everything started was completely another story. But yeah, let's move on to another topic before we touch base on that again.
And also, if I'm not mistaken, people do buy batiks for souvenir, you see. I mean, they are made it into dresses, shoes, and a small like products. And then when they go to certain regions in Malaysia, then they'll buy also souvenirs. But what's interesting here is the Fern Chua, she managed to transform the traditional touch to modern wear. So I just want to ask you, like, how was it like to have the transition from the traditional to modern touch when it comes to fashion? Because batik, if I'm not mistaken, it takes quite a long process to make it, right?
Yeah. To produce and to make it's actually quite a hassle. I guess for me it's a lot. A lot of people kind of overlook that okay, it's just batik, it's just another fabric. But for me, it's a piece of art. It's a work of art that is produced by the artisan. A lot of people kind of like don't understand what sort of hardship, or rather how hard it is to actually make batik, and they always think that it's just a piece of cloth, but it's not.
And the design itself, you have to put on a canvas. All this very, very original design. It's not just print. Although some they use print, but
yes. And speaking of which, like what I'm trying to do is to actually preserve the really handmade kind of batik. I don't think there is a need for us to go into like mass produce digital printing for batik, because it kind of devaluate. That kind of like bring down the whole idea of what batik is all about. Yes, dilute.
Artistic.
Yes. Exactly.
Sense of that batikness.
Yes, exactly. And for me to, when you talk about the challenge and why batik, I mean, there was a twist story behind the whole thing. It's kind of long.
It's all right. Take your time. Yeah, you can share with us.
I was never from the fashion background or anything like that. I didn't come from. I didn't study fashion. In
What
fact,
did you study?
no, I studied mass communication.
Okay.
So I was doing PR and marketing and filming at that time. That was about 5 years ago. And I met a car accident actually. And that changed my life. And I was paralyzed for 6 months because of my tendons and my median nerve cut. So I couldn't move my left arm like for quite some time, and I had to go for physio every single day. And doctor told me that the chance of you recovering is like 60 to 70%. But then again, that freaked me out quite a little bit. And then I decided that I want to challenge myself, and that woke me up from it that I should really pursue my dream, because life is so fragile. You don't know what's gonna happen to you next.
So your dream is actually to be in fashion.
Well, I always thought about going into fashion, but I never really dared to speak up to what I want, because first of all, being in the fashion industry is not as simple as you think it is.
Of course.
And it adds on to the fact that coming from a very practical Chinese family, fashion is like a no-no.
It's like a hobby, side
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Well, yeah, even then, it was like, it was a lot of pressure as well, having your siblings, like, they're all the top students and really going into like, accounting, law and things like that. So it was a little bit weird, like,
How
for my
did you break
parents.
into the Malaysian fashion industry? Because you don't know. I mean, I would assume that in the beginning you might not know anyone.
No. I struggle quite a bit. I have my own struggle, I would say. I started off sewing on my own, and then I went on to having a tailor to teach me how to do all this pattern making. And then I studied every single fashion books I can lay my hands on that, I think is beneficial for me. And then from there, I take one step at a time. And it's quite interesting that you have that do or do not. There is no try.
Yes, that is our motto
Yeah.
in Renascent.
And I have something similar to what you have there. And that motivated me for 2 years. I stick it right in front of my desk every single and then, you kind of like read it. And it's like, okay, you have to do it. Of course, you're trying to break through. It's not as simple as you think it is. You're afraid of people judging you, of what you do, whether you're good enough and everything. But at least if you try, there is a possibility. If you don't try, there's nothing out there.
If it's a failure, that means it's a failure. But at least you try.
Yes.
And you know that.
yes, exactly.
You know your limits, and maybe you can improve from there.
Yeah. So from there, I improved a lot of my hand skills and everything. It was pretty good, I actually able to actually heal a lot more than what the doctor was expecting out of my hand to be healing.
When you started out fashion, do you have like any signature style in mind, or you just like try everything? Every kind of
I mean
style?
that was the point. That was the turning point for me. That when I start to learn how to sew, like of course you learn the basic, how to make a dress, how to make a pants, how to make a blouse and things like that, right? So I decided to explore more on different kind of fabrics, and that's when I landed myself, or rather I brought a friend of mine from Finland, actually my ex-mother, to Central Market, and then there we are. And then I was explaining to her what batik is all about, and I kind of at the same time I was drawn myself into batik, and I was like, and I thought to myself that there's so much potential there, And then I bought a piece of fabric, a batik fabric. It was just simple white blue ones. And I brought it home and made it into a sundress, and everyone's been complimenting, oh, that's a great dress, blah blah blah. And then that kind of motivated me, and then I started to buy more batik fabrics and learn more about batik. And it's quite a journey, I must say, from learning how to sew, and then the next thing I know, I jumped right into batik. And then there I was learning about batik. I went around, I went to Kelantan and Terengganu and found all these sources on my own, and to actually
Was
see.
it easy? I mean, even nowadays to find someone doing original batik design is quite hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean there are quite a lot of people are still doing batik. The craft negara, the craft tangan negara, they actually they try to implement, trying to help out the industry for batik makers and things like that. But the honest truth is that everyone's so focused on doing what they're doing, or rather it's basically like a cottage industry, and they're focusing on Muslim wear mainly. So it was a challenge for me, to actually learn. But I have to say, it was quite a pleasant journey. I met a lot of people along the way. They teach me a lot about what batik is all about. I learned a lot as well. And then from there, going around in Kelantan and Terengganu, and even in nearby.
Having your Lego at one.
Yeah, I wish, but it was a lot to take on, and then I even at that time when I was still exploring, I actually went all the way to Rawang, and that was the closest place where a lot of people are still doing batik.
Really?
Yes.
I should know about it.
and then that was actually quite interesting as well. They were like, oh my god, you're a Chinese girl, and then you're like learning all about this, and it's like going up, because some of them they are really in the, like I said, cottage industry, so they sometimes do it in the abandoned shop lots upstairs and things like that. Yeah, they're trying to save money or whatever it is, but yeah, I went there braving myself because I want to learn all about batik, and that's how everything took place, right? And then later on, I found out about this KLIB, which is there's a batik convention going on at that time. That was about 2-3 years back now. And I gate crashed it.
You're not invited.
Yeah, and it was good experience actually. And I met a lot of all these batik pioneer batik makers. They are pioneer batik makers, and they are locals, and they are really really like great in their work, and they really take pride on what they do. And everyone has their own style and own signature to it, which is great. You learn a lot. And then that's how I actually met this particular textile designer, or this textile company, batik textile company called Rusgahara. So I fell in love with the batik, honestly. I thought they were different. They have their own sense of story or style to it.
And you partner
with Rusgahara. Exactly, yes.
So how is it different from the just the batiks that we've seen before?
Well, I think they have you see, I think a lot to do with having them as a partner, or rather, they have their own sense of story or style to what they do, and they take pride to it. Like I said, everyone has their own signature, and their signature was actually from this ukiran, which is a carving, an ancient carving from the Kelantanese folklore, I would say. It's by this there was a Kelantanese princess called Chua Siti Kembang,
she dressed like a man. The way.
Yeah. So anyway, they have all this carvings of this, from the whole idea of the Chua Siti Kembang, and they made it into prints for the fabric, and I thought it was pretty interesting, and it was the colors, how they play with, and everything, and I was drawn to it immediately, and I talked with them, and I said, look, I want to collaborate with you. I am nobody, but I'm willing to try, and they are willing to try it out with me. So
that's
that was
where you got your batik collection.
Yes, and that was really interesting because I know that I won't be able to handle everything on my own at that time. And so, we've been working on a lot of collaborations together, a lot of projects together. I'm more than happy that, calling them as a close business partner of mine. And from there, we came out with our pre-collection last year. And when that took place, I only had 9 designs just to try out the market. And unfortunately, my father fell very sick. And before that, I was like, okay, I had to stop my life for him and everything. So, but I already produced all these designs and all these pieces, right? So I decided to give it a try in Singapore because my dad was receiving treatment in Singapore. So I was like, okay, I'll just send it to this boutique, or rather, I was asking around, and this boutique loved my stuff, and it's down by Club Street, by the way. And within 3 months, I sold Well, quite a few pieces, a lot of pieces actually. And then that's when I was confident enough to actually see that, there's a potential market out there for me. And yeah, and at the same time, last year I was being pushed to join this competition. It's called Fashion Pitch. It's organized by my creative ventures. It's actually is an initiation from the government to push out the creative industry people. Yeah, and I think out of quite a few designers out there, and to my surprise, or rather, okay, fine, it wasn't really a surprise, or I don't know, and alongside with two other designers, I won the competition as well. So that
Is there
has been.
any like criteria for the competition, as in like you have to design certain.
Well, you
kind of
have to
design?
showcase what you've been doing, and also at the same time, you have to come up with a 5 years plan of what you want to do, and that was quite challenging,
And they actually would provide grants.
It's a funding, it's a loan,
I see.
and it's amazing because you have a direction of you're not stuck with somewhere that you have the capability to do it, but you don't have the funding to do it. But now looks like it's balanced out. It's just how you plan to do it. It's another whole story. But
Is it very competitive when it comes to the fashion industry in Malaysia?
It
For
is.
young designers like you.
It is. I mean, everyone has. I mean, the great part about it is everyone has their own flair, own style to it. So. Competition is definitely, I mean, in every single industry there are definitely like competition out there, but
For sure.
I think overall we're pretty good. Everyone has their own flair to what they are doing. So yeah, and I would say that there are also like people who are doing batik, but I would say that everyone has their own flair. That's what I can say to you. Yeah.
It's very interesting to hear Fern's story because you've had a lot of ups and downs, and throughout you've learned a lot from them.
Yes.
But when it comes to fashion industry, who's your market? I mean, who are you targeting? Are you specifically targeting women or men or children?
Well, at the moment I'm doing a lot of I'm doing mainly women's wear. So I would say my target audience would be somewhere between the 20s all the way up to 40s.
So it's like
even
people like
50s.
us.
Yes. Executives and people who loves fashion, but who like to embrace, who likes patterns, and who kind of like appreciate the idea of these are all artisanal made goods. These are not machine made. These are not mass produced and things like that.
It's very original, I would say.
Yes.
Do you produce for any particular wear, like, or is it just for casual wear?
Well, I've been concentrating on resort wear, I would say mainly, but I'm trying to see, or rather, I'm gonna take it up another notch, which is to actually come up with spring, summer, and autumn, winter collection. That would be quite interesting because so far nobody has really done it this way.
Oh, really?
Yes, and make it into ready to wear. It's quite a challenge because that took years of experience and experiment
Of
to
course.
actually understand that batik is really temperamental as well.
Yeah.
And it's about how you actually play with the colors, how you combine different patterns together, and and depending on on the weather as well. Like the weather plays a role
Yep.
in like to actually make the batik. To dry the fabric, because it goes through a lot of process. First, the wax painting, and then you dye it, and after you dye it, you fix it, and then you boil it, and then you dry it, right? So this process may goes on and on and on, and the color will change and things like that. So you have to learn how to deal with it, and it's the worst part of doing what I'm doing. And sometimes I question myself, like, why am I doing this? Why can't you just buy some fabrics and make it into your own design? But these are the challenges that you realize that it's so worth it when you make it through.
Especially when people really appreciate it.
Yes. But I do see that the people here in Malaysia are still not as receptive as the ones outside of Malaysia.
Really? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah, it's quite interesting. People from Japan, from France, they actually understand the value of what artisanal made, handmade are all about, being different, being unique, being, all this. They appreciate that more than all these big mega brands.
It's very interesting. Or is it also because of the mindset of people? Because
I
they
think it's
know
the
that
mindset.
the batik here is mainly for Muslim people here.
Not necessarily it's just mainly for Muslim. It's also because people have this mindset that anything that is Malaysian made is not good enough compared
Yes.
to international made.
It could be as well, but it's a lot to do with that. There are a lot of key factors, I would say. It's not just one thing that, I would say that, because it's traditional wear or whatever, because young generations are still wearing baju kurung and kebaya or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
But the idea is that I think it has a lot to do with, they kind of overlook, or rather they would rather spend money elsewhere and not. I think it's just the basic
Yeah.
Malaysian. Most
So are
of
you
the
saying that you're targeting more on the Southeast Asia?
I'm targeting towards the international crowd.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm actually selling here in Malaysia, but at the same time, I'm in KL in Bangsar village, and also in Singapore. Now Singapore is doing way better than
Really?
KL. Yes. Oh yeah. And
That's the
I guess
the
it-
funny side. I
yes,
guess.
yes, and also I think it's a lot to do with the spending power as well.
Of course.
Yeah, because batik, it's quite funny that, like now you mentioned it, because batik is not cheap, first of all. I think a lot of people know about that as well. So that is also one challenge that I have to face, that, and I cannot lower down my price anymore, because the cost is so high, and what goes beyond there was just like, because it takes a person to actually develop all these things. There's a payment to it, or rather, I have to pay for the fact that someone is making this batik as well. So
What is your signature style? Because I think although batik is the kind of fabric that you use, but when it comes to like the style, what do you incorporate?
Or do you have a special cutting when it comes to design? Or
I think that's quite interesting, because talking of which, it's like I think every season I try to like incorporate with different. I'm still being experimental with batik. I try to be abstract. I try to play around with patterns, and even traditional patterns as well. I'm trying to do a combination of both. So all the time I'm still experimenting what exactly it is. But I think the style that I'm going for is still basically is quite distinctive, which is that it's very clean, it's very effortless, it's elegance, and it's very feminine for my women's wear, definitely. And it's a little bit more of the sensual, very sexy kind of clothes that people think about going to the beach, or
For the modern woman. That
Yes.
Love life, I guess.
Yes.
I would love to
Yes,
imagine all
travel.
those office, female
Yeah.
workers, to wear your fashion,
Yeah,
know.
if you can develop like a office wear collection, I would love to buy
It would
it.
be really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still experimenting with a lot of things at the moment. So hold on to your horses, because it takes a while.
Of course.
It takes double amount of work from normal designers to be doing, because I develop my own fabric patterns as well, and to the whole silhouette, to the whole the whole cutting, to the garments and everything. It's all done by me at the moment. So it takes a longer process than just normally.
Of course.
You buy some fabrics and you make it into something your own, and that's it. And the best part about doing batik, if you ask me, is that everyone has their own flair, like I said, and that you're really unique, because batik, it's hand drawn. You can never really copy back again.
That's
the,
true.
The design, or people don't know what technique you use, so it's just something like that. Okay, perhaps people could copy, but it couldn't be 100% what you're doing.
So how can people get access to your design, your collection?
Like I said, I'm selling in Bangsar Village.
Or
too,
you have a
and,
website online
boutique,
that I can have a look
Tribeca.
at?
At the moment, because I'm still revamping my website, but it's going to be under the newbatik.com.
Newbatik.com.
Yes.
Same. So
It's
there
very
you go.
interesting.
If you want to know more about her collection, you can go to newbatik.com, or you can
The
go to
newbatik.com.
The newbatik.com.
Yes.
And also do let us know if there are any updates, if you have holding any events or new collections,
Yeah.
then we would love to share on our website as well.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Fern.
Yeah.